Hello, everyone. I was editing the big hour-long Danganronpa Behemoth, but my computer wasn't happy with it, so I decided that, I am actually uploading something, but it's raw footage for someone else, but it's a whole other thing. But I'm giving my computer a little bit of a breather, and we're gonna do the albums follow-up to the games one that I did before I went to my cousin's wedding. So we're gonna do that now, and it's gonna be great. So I got 5 albums here that were great that came out this year. I got 3 that have come out that I haven't listened to that I want to listen to, and then there are 3 that are hopefully coming out later this year that I'm looking forward to. So very similar to the games one, except there's actually 5 this time. So that's great. So we're gonna start with Jack White's Boarding House Reach. Now, the thing to understand about me and the Jack White and the White Stripes is that I was never like a White Stripes fan, especially when the White Stripes were like around. But I sort of came back to them later and sort of recognized how not simple, maybe simple is the wrong word, just fundamental music is, because it's just Jack and Meg, right? And so I really grew to appreciate a lot of their work in the White Stripes, but I never, even after going back and liking the White Stripes, I never listened to Jack White's solo material. But then this thing came out, and it was like, yo, you gotta listen to this thing. So then I listened to this thing, and I liked it, and then I went back, I liked it a lot. And then I went back to his first 2 solo albums, and they're good, but they're not this. I think the thing is that this is sort of the Jack White solo album. When he has a whole band with him, right? This is the Jack White album that I think people kind of expected after the White Stripes broke up. It's this crazy like fusion of genres that sort of goes all over the place and really kind of. I guess the best way to explain it is it's just kind of an album. It's a 2018 rock album in that like it's pulling from all sorts of inspiration in music in this modern era and sort of throws it all at the wall and sort of plays with it and messes with it as you go around, but still has this nice cohesive sound that connects it through an album. And I really, really dig it. I think there are some songs on here that like Ice Station Zebra is basically a rap song. I like Everything You Ever Learned, this like crazy like spoken word thing. It's like 2 minutes long. Like you could call it an interlude, but like I straight just like sometimes just like I don't do. Sometimes I mess with other people, but a lot of times it's like I just want to be able to like listen to "Hello, welcome to Everything You've Ever Learned," brought to you by Hello. It's like it's great, and then the whole thing at the end, like some of the best like lyric writing is at the end of that song. And it's just, it's not anything new necessarily, like that, the whole, like, oh, you want this? Well, you want, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but let's see, is this gonna play? Do we got volume, or, oh, we got a yeah, so, you want to know everything, then think of a good question, like that kind of like catchy, like "ooh, I got you" kind of things, and like it works with that that melody. I really just it's diverse, but it flows extremely well, and there's a lot of really catchy tracks on here, and I think they sound notably different and new and refreshing compared to other rock releases in the past few years. So great stuff. Let's move on to, I'm going to do it in a different order because we're talking about rock. I'm going to go over and talk about Graveyard's Peace, because while Jack White, I would argue, is sort of like pushing rock forward, I view Graveyard, especially with the last like 3 releases by them, to sort of be kind of like the throwback band in a way, in the sense that with every new album they pull more and more blues influence into what they do, and I just like it more and more and more. Even Heist Engine Blues obviously had some blues influence. I mean, the title, but I mean the first album was good, but it was just a good rock album, a hard rock album, right? But then as you go along, they're bringing more and more blues style approaches into their songwriting, and now you're at a point with Peace where like every one of these songs is like, quite literally a blues riff that you could just play for like ever, right? But the cool thing about it is it's not just a blues sound. Like, they take it, and unlike the previous album, which was very clean and just, it was very much a just sort of blues rock kind of album. This one, it takes it and then it really adds in like the density and the power and the heaviness that came with some of their earlier projects. So what you have is this hard rock album, like this really, gritty and just punchy album that pulls from this blues songwriting style that, I guess you obviously is in all of music today, but hasn't been seen in such a pure form in a more I guess want to say like more commercial public sense, because I there are still blues artists out there performing and selling albums and stuff like that, and there are rock acts that pull heavily from blues influence, but I think on a scale like this and to the extreme like this, this is quickly becoming my favorite Graveyard album. I have very few qualms with it. The only qualms I have really is that there are some songs where I'm like, just add another verse to it. But if you don't have the lyrics for it, then it is what it is. Because it just, every song is just fantastic, and it just like, you could take these songs and just pull them back to 50s, 60s blues, early rock kind of stuff, and it would just fit in perfectly. Like it's really good. Is my point. So good stuff. Next, we're gonna switch over to hip hop. We're gonna go talk about Royce da 5'9's The Book of Ryan. This album that when I made my first impressions video, I was just like, it's probably his best album. I liked it more than Prime 2. I liked Layers as well. But this was an album that you can't listen to it once. And the thing is, you gotta listen to it once, right? Listen to it once and get like, oh, this is a good beat, or I like the Boblo Boat song, or the Caterpillar song, or Strong Friend. What's the other, is it Power? Yeah, it's Power. Power's the other big super. Couldn't remember if it was Power or Strong Friend, but Strong Friend I think is one of the skits, so that actually makes sense. Because hang on. Yeah, it's that one. Okay, now I've figured it out. So the deal is, the first listen, you just gotta listen to it, right? And you might go through and you might be like, okay, towards the end, this is sort of dragging a little bit. And that's exactly what I said in my first impressions video, right? Where I was like, okay, I'm starting to get sick of it. The thing is that then the second time, you gotta read the album. And and this is something that I just don't do necessarily unless I'm really, really curious, but if you want to understand why this album is incredible, and it's okay, you got to put in a lot of work to enjoy it. It's okay, that's fair, but you got to read this thing, because every line, every lyric, everything he says is important, and it plays into the whole story and theming of the album. And I'm dead serious. It's that dense, and it's that full of content and power and just everything. And you can tell that he took a lot of time to craft each of these tracks and just write it all out, and then get everything he needed to get out. Because this is the Book of Ryan. This is him. This is his life, and it's also written in from the sense of, it's the context of him as a father repeating some of the mistakes of his father. That's the whole story, basically, the album. What happens is there's in the seventh track, because the first 6 tracks go by really quickly, because you have 3 opening tracks that are a minute each, because the intro is just sort of like an intro, and then Woke is really the actual first kind of track, and then it just jumps into Where's My Parallel to that. And the first real track is actually Caterpillar, right? Which is this sort of meditation on on blossoming talent, because he has been around for so long, and he's this is the introduction to saying, hey, this is going to be my biggest album or whatever. And then there's some. Then anyway, you get into Who Are You, and it's what happens is the whole thing is he's talking about like basically the opportunity to talk to his father again, and he has the opportunity to ask his father any questions about his upbringing, but the catch is that he can't blink. But then when he blinks, he's looking his son right in the face, because the deal is the time is flying so fast that he's still reflecting on his youth, but now he has to be a parent to his own son who's having trouble understanding him. And so it draws the parallel. Where's my parallel to that? It draws that parallel, and then it's like, hey, and then it's his son, and his son's like, I was doing this project, and I wanted to write on someone that's important to me, and that's you, but I need to know who you are. And I was thinking of calling this project The Book of Ryan. So the rest of the album from then on is him telling stories to his son, essentially, through the context of that track. So hopefully that makes sense. So there's a bunch of stories in here, and each of them are separated into different tracks, right? So you have like a track like Cocaine, which is straight up talking about his dad being addicted to cocaine. And then the catch at the end of the track is that his dad stopped using it because he got sober for his kids, just as Royce got sober for his kid, right? You got Bob Lobo, which is about, it's about in Detroit, there's this whole like vacation summer spot, and like a lot of the Detroit, like that whole neighborhood like went there for this vacation scene, reflecting on all these different moments and things like that. Life is Fair, I believe that's the one where I know the track, everyone, life is fair. It's talking, I believe that's reflecting on his family and sort of the hypocrisy with how the family interacts with each other. I could be wrong about that though. Protecting Ryan's one of my favorite tracks as well, because it's this meditation on his brother who kept, overacting and just like, getting into trouble because he was like, I need to protect my brother, and he ends up getting in jail because of it. And then when Royce gets the record deal and all that, people are like, oh, look at Ryan, look how successful he is, but it was because of the fact that his brother kept protecting it. And then at the end of the track, he was like, I finally get it, and that was really cool. So like there's so many just amazing stories being told here that you need to like read, and then when you go and listen to the album, every time after you read it, it just keeps growing on you, and it keeps adding more power to everything that he's saying. It's just really good. The only real critique I have maybe is like his flow can be a little bit tiresome, but it's he's telling all these dense stories. It's hard to like really flow well, I guess, with a lot of that. When you have such dense songwriting, it's just hard to do that. One of many traps Eminem fell into in his last album, but the difference is this is actually written well. Let's go to the next one. So Kanye West produced 5 albums in the span of 5 weeks, and there's some that I liked, there are some that I didn't like, there's some that other people really liked that I did not like. But my favorite of the bunch was the first one. It is the first one. It's Pusha T's Daytona. And the reason why is because it's the only album out of all of them that doesn't feel like that feels like it was a 40-minute album condensed into a 20-minute album. It was like they actually cut out all the filler, and he condensed all this lyrical content that he had for this super like dense project, because he went to Kanye and he was like, here's all this production for this crazy like 40-50-minute album for King Push, right? And Kanye's like, I think I can do it better. And then he goes back and he's like, let's make it 7 tracks. And in a lot of ways, Kanye's in his own little whole world sometimes. And like when King Push like made this prelude album, which by the way is longer than Daytona, right? Because the whole King Push prelude album, how long was that? I'm gonna look that up now. How long was it? It was 33 minutes. And that was supposed to be a prelude to a bigger album, right? But then Daytona comes out, and it's this 20-minute, like, super punchy, 7-track, like, no track is more than, like, 3 minutes, right? And it just works. It's so good. It's so punchy. It just tells you everything you need to know, and it just condenses it all. Kind of like Royce's album, it's very dense with content, and there's a lot of it where it's like, I don't know, enters, it leaves when it needs to leave, and that's every single track. And there's no wasted time here, and it just works so well. Only bad thing in it is Kanye's verse on What Would Meek Do. So there you go. I just really liked everything. The production here is Kanye's best of the entire freaking run. He clearly put the most time into this project. I feel like both Kids See Ghost and Ye, while there might have been a lot of planning that went into them, there's a lot of last minute just like thrown together stuff, like example being Ghost Town falling on Ye when it was intended to be for Kids See Ghosts, and then they make this ridiculous free song that like I don't understand. I do not get the hype behind that song at all. They throw that together in less than a week for Kids See Ghosts, right? So point being is that every single piece of production on here is killer. The lines are fantastic. The subject matter, like it's this whole reflection on it. It feels like this is what he's building up to. This feels like King Push because it's a reflection on his whole past and like everything from coming up and then where it's brought him now. Like this whole thing, it's just really incredible. Absolutely incredible listen, and it's 20 minutes and then it's done and then you just want to listen to it again. So great stuff. I will give a shout out to, by the way, because I was thinking of making this video that was like, let's rank the 5 albums that Kanye produced. Number 2, so if I were to order them, it would be Pusha T at 1, Nas at number 2, Ye at number 3, Teyana Taylor number 4, Kids See Ghosts 5. But that's, like I said, I don't really like Kids See Ghosts that much. However, I will admit that it has grown on me a little bit. The first 2 tracks have grown on me. But once you hit first 2, 3-ish, but not really. Once I hit free, I just want to turn the thing off and just like go like contemplate my life decisions. So let's go to the 5th one. 5th album is the Death Grips album, and it's really, really good, and I keep listening to it, and it keeps growing on me, and this might, this is the number 1 right now. Like, I know this isn't in any particular order, but if I were to say my album of the year right now, it would be Year of the Snitch by Death Grips. And like I said in the Death Grips video, the thing is that my experience with Death Grips is very different from many other people, because a lot of people fell into Death Grips with The Money Store or Ex-Military back when those came out, right? But with me, my entry point to Death Grips was easily their most like bombastic and just like basically just punk metal release, which was Bottomless Pit. It basically took a lot of the stuff, like it took influence from a lot of the Jenny Death half of the Powers That Be and just cranked it up to 1,000. But in terms of a lot of other things, it also kind of, a lot of people view it as sort of like a sequel to The Money Store in some respects. The interesting thing about Death Grips is that basically there's this parallel between this like punk rock, like heavy metal, with hip hop, hardcore hip hop influence side of them. And then there's this like more experimental, just weird, just like hard to understand side of them, and you can pretty much separate their releases in that order. The only exception is the Powers That Be, which the reason why I say that is because the first half is the weird and the second half is the punk rock kind of, heavy metal aesthetic. The only, I guess when you go into like Ex-Military or The Money Store, it's definitely more hip-hop. The further you go down their discography, the less hip-hop it is, but I would still put that more on the punk side of things, especially when you get tracks like I See Footage. But anyhow, so now we come to Year of the Snitch, this album that came out, and it's like, my phone's at 5% battery, so I'm gonna plug it in. I have the ability to plug it in right here, so we're gonna do it while I'm talking about Death Grips, and it's gonna be fantastic. So the thing is, this came out, and this is a weird album, right? And they had these tracks that teased out on YouTube, and I listened to them, and you had like this track's called Streaky, and like it just didn't click with me, and it didn't click with a lot of people. It comes out and it's like streaky, 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 streaky on the outside. It's just like, and it has this weird like weird synth like dooba dabba dabba dooba, like alien sounding, like ridiculous weird sounding. It's just weird production all around, like some of the weirdest Death Grips production out there, right? So that happens, and you're like, okay, I actually need a USB hub to plug this into, so I might actually need to leave this room and know what to do. Okay, well, we're going to go on an adventure. We're going to go on an adventure to find, unless this is. Oh, this is. We can do that. This will work. Plug the PVR and just do that. So Streaky comes out. You're going vertical now. Streaky comes out, and it's this, like, crazy freaking, like, it's just weird production, and it just didn't click with me, especially after Bottomless Pit, where it's like, you know, oh no, and it's just like this crazy aggressive thing, and you come out with this like really hokey sounding, like it just didn't click, right? But then they come out with other tracks, and it's like, okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. Black Paint comes out with this heavy, like super heavy song, and that was the single that came out. I'm like, okay, well, I really like this song. It was the only one of the singles that came out that was like, I really like this song. But like, so it comes out, and it's just like, it's just incredible. Because you listen to the whole thing, and then suddenly all these weird things that you heard in the singles, they start making sense, because the songs start flowing into each other. And then what happens, this is sort of a similar thing that happened with Royce da 5'9". Now, I already liked the album upon release, but like, if you go back to that video, you know, I have this thing where I'm like, I like some of the weird sounds of it, and the example I gave was Flies, where it becomes at the beginning, Flies. But then the thing is that if you read it, then you can actually know what they're saying. And that's similar with all of Death Grips albums. I was eventually going to read it, because it's like, if you can understand what they're saying on Bottomless Pit without having to look it up, like, props to you, because it's hard. But that track is actually quite disgusting in its subject matter, as with many Death Grips tracks, and it says, should the opportunity arise, vomit me, Flies. So the whole concept of the album, so let's go with this. I might end up making a video on this, but there are other people that have like reviewed the album or given their take on the album that have already talked about this, so I want to only make a video on if I can add something to that conversation. But basically, the whole concept of the album is it's the year of the snitch. They're snitching on themselves. They're making an album that they're basically admitting their music is trash, right? They're making an album that's basically snitching on themselves, and they keep talking about how garbage they are. The catch is that the album's fantastic, right? But the whole idea is that you had Bottomless Pit and all these things come out, and it's like they're snitching on themselves. They're making the weirdest album possible, just absolutely off the wall, just ridiculous. And the idea is that they're saying like, why are you listening to us? It's the sort of Death Grips abuse that you get, that they had a lot with their earlier stuff, where they just straight didn't show up to shows, and that was the performance. They didn't show up, and then they say later, oh, that was our show, that was our performance. Us not showing up was the performance, right? Okay. Or this sort of like crazy relationship they have with their fans, which is just great. So like, or with Bottomless Pit, where you could listen to the whole album if you called the number, and they're like, press 6 for trash or something like that. So they've kind of been teasing it leading up to this in some sort of way, but it's kind of like a catch-22. They have this fantastic album, which is my favorite of the Death Grips discography, which is quite literally telling you the entire time how bad the album is. They're like, this is garbage. Like, it's a shit show. Like, there's the album Shit Show. They're like, it's a shit show. Shit show! And it's just like... they're just telling you how bad it is. And then at the end, they have the outro, and they have this track, Disappointed. They're like, are you disappointed? And the thing is, the answer is no. So it's just like, it's such a weird dynamic, and I love it. And I don't know, the thing is because they don't do interviews, and they don't like talk about anything, right? You don't know what the intent was. So you don't know whether the intent was for their fans to hate it, or whether the intent was for their fans to love it. And that's the funniest thing about it. Because remember, Death Grips was done, like, many times. So, like, you have no idea whether they're trying to jump the shark, or whether they're just like, I have no idea. And that's the interesting thing about this band, and that's why so many people talk about them. Not even if you don't like their music, right? It's that aspect that I think captivates a lot of people. thankfully, this album's fantastic. So there you go. Every single track on here is fantastic. The whole thing flows just so well. Just love it. Just love it. So Year of the Snitch is my new favorite Death Grips album. Before that, it was Bottomless Pit. And The Money Store was right behind Bottomless Pit. So I guess now your order would be Year of the Snitch, Bottomless Pit, Money Store, then Ex-Military. But I haven't listened to No Love Deep Web in a while, so I don't know. That album I remember being good, but it's been a while. Because I don't own it, so the problem is like I have the CD collection business here, and I don't own that CD, so it's kind of like when I don't own the CD and I haven't bought the music, I don't listen to it as much, which is good because I want to support artists, so I'd rather buy listen to the stuff I bought rather than listen to some torrent or even streaming services. They don't make a lot of money. So, those are the 5 things that I talked way too long about them. So, let's go through the rest of this, shall we? Car Seat, Headrest, Twin Fantasy. I haven't listened to it. I haven't listened to the original. I haven't listened to any Car Seat, Headrest. I'll be completely honest with you. But then Hyperion, the legend that he is, made this crazy video about his... and it's like this sort of like... autobiography in the context of Car Seat Headrest, and is a sequel to another video I made about Car Seat Headrest. The Car Seat Headrest themselves didn't like, which is very interesting. So they had this Twin Fantasy is this re-release of this their first project, but it's re-recorded and redone entirely, and there's even some changed lyrics based on like the new like look at it, I guess. So it's really interesting. I want to listen to both versions. Yeah, that's that. So then, we got 2 others. So that came out, I want to listen to it. Next one is Tropical Fuckstorm, A Laughing Death in Meat Space. I've heard, I keep getting, I keep seeing people be like, yes, you need to listen to this ridiculous album. So I want to listen to that ridiculous album. So, hopefully I will listen to it sometime soon. Next one is A$AP Rocky's Testing. This album came out, I believe, the same day as Daytona, and I was at my friend's house, and his younger brother's a huge A$AP fan. So we listened to Daytona, and we listened to the live stream of Daytona, because remember, the live stream of Daytona worked. So that was fun. So we listened to the live stream of Daytona, and it was good. And then A$AP came out that night. So then after we listened to the stream, it was like, wow, this is really good. Then we listened to some of A$AP, and I just didn't get into it. I just didn't like it. But I didn't give the full album a chance. And I'm really interested in what I'm gonna think about it because of the fact that it's pretty divisive. Like there are people that really don't like it, and there are people that really love it. So I'm interested. So that's that. Got 3 albums that hopefully will come out this year. There's gonna be a new Megadeth. I'm excited because their last one was good. I don't know. It was weird. The last releases from the Big Four were all like really good. So I'm interested in the new Megadeth. I'm sad that Slayer's done because their last album was like their best album in like how long? Like it's crazy, right? So, yeah, upcoming out, yeah, because it was. When did Dystopia come out? That came out in 2015? 2015. No, 2016. Okay. So, hopefully, new album this year. And if it does, that'd be really cool. So I'll be looking forward to that. That'd be a good time. Then the next one I have written on here is Run the Jewels 4, because Run the Jewels 3 and Run the Jewels 2 and Run the Jewels 1 were really good, and LP's solo effort before that was really good, and Rap Music by Killer Mike was really good. So basically they haven't had a fluke yet. LP hasn't had a fluke in his entire freaking career, so I'm not really, I'm not expecting to be disappointed. Disappointed. See, this freaking album's in my head the whole time. Death Grips. Run the Jewels 4. It'll be good. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping it comes out this year, because it's been a while, and, they did Run the Jewels 1 and 2 in, 1 year apart, right? Run the Jewels 3 was basically 2 years, So that came out in end of 2016. So I would love if Run the Jewels 4 came out late 2018, but we'll see. So that's that. And then the last one, which is particularly important to me, is the Fife solo project Forever, which I'm really looking forward to it. I loved the track Nutshell, and whenever I listen to the Tribe album the last Tribe album, right, or I watch the music videos for the last Tribe album, usually I end up migrating my way over to the Fife solo track Forever, and then there's another the Nutshell. There's another one that came out, if I remember, that I don't listen to as much. Flawless, right? Is that it, or is that no? That was from Ventilation. That's from Ventilation because I legit that was stupid because I own Ventilation now. I bought Ventilation not too long ago, and it's good. It's not great. It's good. I mean, I argue with some people and I say that some of Q-Tip's solo projects are it's Wanna Dance. That's it, right? Is this one? Yeah. Came out in. Yes, this. The Soul Brokers. Okay. Yeah. So the Wanna Dance and Nutshell were both really good tracks. Nutshell in particular is really, really good. And it was better than his solo than Ventilation. Like I make the argument with people that Q-Tip's solo projects are better than some Tribe projects, which is an unpopular opinion to say the least. But the thing you do miss with a Q-Tip project, you miss that diversity you get with Tribe projects, and you get this more aggressive, punchier MC with the smooth kind of Q-Tip business, right? So the thing you get with Q-Tip solo projects is pretty much all just smooth jazz, especially with Kamal the Abstract, which is easily the best of the three, I would say. In my opinion, anyway, Kamal the Abstract was way ahead of its time in some respects. In other respects, no, because it kind of throws back to jazz, but there's a lot of jazz through anyway. So I'm looking forward to it, and the thing was that they kept being like, oh, it's going to come out this year, it's going to come out this year, but it just hasn't come out, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that it was supposed to be released independently through Smoking Needles, which was his record label that he started towards the end of his life, and for a wide distribution for that, without him there, and without the ability to work with other people and stuff, I'm guessing that's just harder to do. So what I remember reading interviews from back in 2017 ish was his wife saying, we're just trying to find the right person to actually release it, publish it. So in that sense, I'm guessing the album's done, and we're just waiting for someone to approve it, and it's possible that some people are going to be like, well, look at these YouTube views, and look at how it's just not going to do well, right? That's kind of what happened with Kamal the Abstract, right? Because the problem is you can't, they could just release it, they could drop it on iTunes or something like that, but there's a lot of other factors involved, and I think they want the CD and the vinyl and all that kind of stuff too, which I appreciate because I like physical media. But I'm looking forward to it, and I really want. I just want it. I'm selfish. I want it. So give it to me this year, please. Because the thing about that, by the way, if you didn't know, it's not like they're rehashing old verses or something like that to complete it. The whole album was done before he died. So he finished that album, and then they started working on the Tribe album. But the thing was, the production and the mastering wasn't quite there yet, and then like I said, the album's basically done, right? So I'm just want it to come out. So that's my whole 30-minute thing. I think my computer's gonna be in better shape now, so I'm gonna go back to editing. Hour-long Danganronpa video game arguably video game, visual novel, Behemoth, dropping on the channel, hopefully sometime next week. So go to MML's commentaries and wait for that. And speaking of Fife, I might be talking about A Tribe Called Quest sometime soon over on MML's commentaries. So stay tuned.